Ayomide here, and you already know what time it is. We're back for another episode of the World Without People podcast. More voices, more real stories, and even deeper conversations that challenge the way we see the world. This season, we're peeling back even more layers, exploring life, love, purpose, and the beautiful complexities of the human experience. New guests, fresh perspectives, and of course, the same unfiltered, soul stirring energy you love. So, whether you've been rocking with us since day one or you're just joining the adventure, welcome. Grab your favorite drink, settle in, and let's keep the conversation going one unforgettable story at a time. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The World Without People. My name is Ayomide, and I'm excited to be here. I'm always excited to be here, but I'm especially excited today. And I always say this, and I know people are probably like, you're not a serious person, but I really am. I really love the people that I've been talking with, and I get to talk to someone who's been hidden for so long. Hallelujah, somebody that Okwe is showing his face today. Hi, Okwe.
Hi, Bookie. Yeah, good too.
We'll tell you the story as to why this is such an important thing. But welcome, Okwe, to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Okwe, it's Okwe Yemi, right?
Whatever floats your boat works well. Yeah.
Wow. We're going to do that. We're actually going to do
No, it depends on where I'm at. So Nigeria, definitely I go for Okpe. When I'm out of the country is Yemi. Just because it's easier
Ah,
to pronounce. Depends on your audience. I'll go with either.
okay. Fair enough. Fair
The
enough.
same
At
as
least
you
you're not
because I don't know
Victoria.
what name you go with. Is it you have 20 names, so
I was going to ask what you know me as. I'm sure you don't know me as other than
I've
because of the
stuck to
podcast.
bookies since day one,
Okay.
so that Ayomide
Okay.
doesn't
Fair
work
enough.
for me.
Fair enough. And then you know that this is a day one if they're calling me Bookie. If you're not a day one, please don't call me Bookie. If you don't know me for that long, please don't call me Bookie. No, it's true. I'm very offended about it because, first of all, I even want to use the full name. I'm like, Bookie is not my name. I don't know how you got Bookie from Olubukuonla. Just can you say the full name?
Mm,
No.
mm. Anyways, anyways.
Anyways, I'm also especially excited to do this because I act very last minute. And again, sometimes time difference. And I have a very interesting story about that because I literally almost cost somebody a job because of this whole time difference thing. And I got back to Nigeria and I thought it was 8 a.m. for whatever reason. And I sat on the interview, on the Zoom link for 30 minutes. The person didn't show up. I sent a message talking about you've lost the job. I'm like, oh, let me go get coffee. And they're like, where are you going? It's 5 a.m. And so I have to backtrack and be like, I'm so sorry. Please just will keep the interview time. I always say that's how she got the job till today. Like she probably was just like, this person is crazy. I'll be there 15 minutes early. And that's exactly what just happened with us because I'm on a different time zone now. And he's 3 p.m. And I'm like, oh, okay. 3 p.m. is 10 hours away by the time I see this. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then he goes, what's the plan? I'm like, okay, but UK is 1 hour behind because I thought UK was now 1 hour behind Lagos. They need to
I
stop this
think we're
time
now on
difference
the
thing.
same. We're on the same time zone with Lagos now.
So is that what happened? So when you guys moved, you now got back on the same time in Lagos. Oh God, I'm so
Yeah,
confused. Like the
don't
whole thing
worry.
is stressing
Don't
me
worry. We're here now. That's what counts.
out. Okay. Yes, and thank you so very much for being flexible. I guess is the whole point of this whole
Mhm.
story. But before I go on, and talk too much. Akbar is an author, amongst other things, right? I don't even know. Do you want to? Can I say the personal? Can I say no?
Nope.
Okay, no. All
Nope.
right,
Keep it
that's
discreet.
fine. I will keep
You
it
can talk
hidden.
about
No,
what you're talking about, but yeah, just don't.
no. What I mean by that is, like, you know how like the qualifications, like now I have to say, oh, married, and
Yeah.
all those, the bio things that you
Okay.
say. That's why I was like, okay, did we talk about this? Can we do that?
No, no. Oh, I thought you're talking about like blog specifics. Oh yeah, whatever. Yeah,
No, no,
I
no, no.
am me. Everyone knows who I am. So yeah, yeah.
Okay. Anyways, I say all of this because Okpa is very private. So the fact that he's even doing this, I'm like still shook at. I'm still just appreciating it. Okay. Okpa is married, as a father, and an author. We met back in the blogger days, which blogger days were the most amazing time, I think,
Very
still, when I
good.
think of the past of my life. Back then, we didn't know each other physically. We hadn't seen each other. In fact, Okwe lives in another continent. I'm in another continent, and it took us how many years? What do you think? What would you say before we finally saw?
At least 10, if not more.
If not more, right? Yeah, I feel like I was well into my maybe already even 30
Yeah.
before we met.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're blogging in our 20s, if not
yeah,
earlier. Yeah.
exactly. Exactly. And I think that we were one of the fortunate ones who was able to take that and make it a relationship. And I always say the same thing about social media, right? That's why I never really have a problem with social media other than the bad effect of it, because I have seen people form such good relationships from that, especially in Instagram days where you can now see yourselves. Back then, we weren't even seeing each other. All it was, I connect to his writing, he connects to my writing, and we were able to now, what were we using then? Skype? Was it Skype or
Can't remember.
I feel
I
like
can't remember. But
was
I
it
think that's
chat?
what made it better because in those days you connect with someone based on what's going on in the person's mind because you don't know it's not the face or the physical first. Talking
Hmm.
via writing and yeah, I want to say a deeper level of connection, but it's less superficial than I think what it is with the social media world. But I'm not that much into it.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. I guess by the time you're starting to see the person and all of that, you can start to almost put labels, right? So it's like almost to the point of, I think there was something to the effect of now finally meeting the person in person, for lack of a better term, and you're like, wait, you're the one writing all those? Like, like, no, because it's almost again reading a book. You conjured all these things about the person, what the person looks like, height, weight, accents, all these things. And to your point, right? Like even when we were chatting, we weren't talking for the longest time. So you don't even know what this person sounds like. You don't even know what this person is, which I do believe cause a lot of trouble. I think usually for the men more than the
It
women back
does.
in blogger
It
days.
does. That's why I left blogging. Get yourself in trouble for no reason.
Seriously, I don't know. It's funny. It was one of the. I think that it was the flip side for me. I had females that we connected that I may never have connected with just because back then it used to be all my friends are guys, all my friends are guys, all my friends are guys. I didn't really get that whole somebody wants to marry me because of my
Yeah.
blogging. But anyways, we had this whole lifetime and then we meet in person and it turns out that this person is actually fabulous in person, which is great because again, you know how you say don't meet your I what they say, your idol or
Yeah, yeah.
your
I
crush,
get
that
where
kind
you're
of
going.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's very amazing that in person and now many years later we've maintained a friendship and now I can talk to you about your book, which you're going to tell us all about. But I think the point is that of all the many people that were in Blogger, you're one of the few that then wrote a book, right? All of us talked about it, all of us started stories. I think there's one other person I remember, I forget her name now.
Mine
She's
Wickman. She
Maya Whitman. You knew who I was talking about. I remember her as my birthday mates. That's
really.
all I
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. And she's the only other person that wrote a book. And I think that's just a
Yeah.
fantastic testament of the desire, right? And the art and being able to take that and transfer it into this process. Now, but for you though, this was not blogging was just a way to already show what you were doing. So you were already writing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tell us about
Yeah, blogging was, and I think first of all, it's useful to explain what we mean when we talk about blogging because I feel that the term blogging has been bastardized to use a
fair enough.
saner phrase.
Yeah.
So blogging in those days was writing, like properly writing. It's a combination of different things. Some people are writing diaries, some people are writing self-help things, some people are writing
Yeah.
fiction, and you had platforms. The one I remember from ages ago was something that was called Soulcast. That was
Mm.
American. That's how I actually got
Yes.
into blogging. So it's just community of people that just write and you read each other's stuff and you like it and you comment and you know each other via that and belong. And Blogger was where the Nigerian community of bloggers originally started
Right.
coming together. And thinking it was a very small community, but it felt I don't
It
think that
was.
there were more than 200 of us.
Yeah.
But it was
Yeah.
such a cool community. And I then going forward or fast forward, I think what happened was further along the line, some people started changing it into gossip blogs. And Linda Ikeji's blog came
EKG
about because
started.
she was of the blogging community in those
Original
days.
like
Slowly, that sort of genre took more of the audience, and the people that were
right.
right slowly faded away. And blogging, as
Yeah.
it's known now, became more a sort
Yeah.
of Linda KG and that sort of gossip
Yeah.
blogs. So, generation, when you say blogging, may not get what you're talking
Yeah.
about. Yeah.
Fair enough.
When
Fair
you say
enough. That
gossip,
is.
I don't really reckon with it, and I don't want to relate with that sort of blogging.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
anyway, to your previous question, yes, I've always been writing for different reasons, really. I'm largely introspective, so I put my thoughts together in writing. I also like fiction. I like stuff that make people laugh, stuff that make people think. And so for me, I wasn't taking it too seriously. I would just put random
Mm,
stuff, and I saw that people were reading and liking it, and there was a neat community in there, and
mm,
it was part of my coming of age, if I will say it, because I grew up in that community, and it was a community of like-minded people. And for some reason, actually thinking about it, the stuff that I was writing got me into theater because I usually had a little book that I would put my scribbles in. And when I was in school, somebody who was a producer came across the books and read it, the book and read it. And I was like, oh, do you write something for stage? And that's how I got into
mm.
theater, writing for theater. And that's how I got into fast forward many years later, writing a book and I got published. So for me, I think it was just natural and not too serious, to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But that's amazing, right? Because again, you know how they say don't stingy the what's that thing? The beginning
Yeah,
days,
yeah,
basically.
yeah,
What I
yeah.
have my train of thoughts now. But the point just being that don't belittle the
Days of
small
humble
days, beginning days.
beginnings.
Yes, but the point being that again, you took something that you were already doing and then made it into a thing. And you say you published, but you self-published, right?
Yes, yes, I self-publish and I am such a proponent of it because it's a thing of a lot of people want to write books and there are a handful of publishers, traditional publishers, who would publish a book for you. But the world, the industry has changed so much now that a lot of people can self-publish your own book. But self-publishing your own book to an extent is easy in quote, though there is an industry and a lot that you need to do to actually self-publish a book. But if you go through the process and you have a physical book that is out there in the market, then there is another world of getting that book into audience, into readers. So you have to market
Mm,
your book, you have to distribute your book yourself, you have to put yourself out there and all of that, which is a lot of work to be honest, especially if you're a writer and your main thing is you just want to write. But I think the
yeah.
good thing about self-publishing is that it makes it possible if you have all that it takes in terms of you want your work to go out there, then it's possible you can do all things. I love
Mm,
self-publishing and the revenue you can control it to whatever degree that you
mm,
want to. But it doesn't change the fact that it is hard work. It's a lot of hard work. And to an extent, I've been lucky that the book that I wrote was very successful. It's been a bestseller in Nigeria and it continues to sell. It's a small book. I usually say it's the little book that cooled. It's a tiny book, but it's so impactful and the reviews on it have been, yeah, amazing. Yeah.
So I want you to. I've been wanting you to say the name by yourself. So say, tell us the
Yes,
name of the
yes.
book, and then just talk to us a little bit about the process, or give us a little synopsis about the book.
Okay, the book is Don't Tell Daddy What Happened in Lagos by myself, Yemi Odunfa. Most people in the Nigerian reading space would have either heard about it, come across it, or read about it. What is it about? It's a book written in play form because my original genre is drama, and I wrote it because it's originally meant for stage. In fact, I wrote it not so much because I wanted to distribute it. I just wanted to write it and copyright it because one of the ways you copyright something is that you publish it. So it was just a small project. What is it about? It's a book about family secrets, about faith, about grief. So, yeah, in summary, you have a family that the father is an archbishop, the archbishop dies, the first son is supposed to step into his shoes, at some point, but he has lots of secrets, which has led to quite a number of scandals. And he has two siblings, two girls who are sort of working with him to cover up the scandal. In the midst of all of that, the mother comes into Lagos, into town, and they try to cover everything off so that she doesn't find out. And it's chaotic. But the underlying theme about the book is the underlying question is, how do people of faith deal with traumatic circumstances or situations like grief or loss, especially when you need to keep up the appearance of being a person of faith? And for me, faith is from a Christian point of view. And that's what I was exploring in the book. I was exploring it more for my own personal reasons. And I also didn't want it to be too heavy. So I needed it to be light, to be funny at the same time, whilst maintaining a strong undertone of what I wanted to talk about, which is deep things. The deep question is, you're a person of faith, you believe in God, and why do bad things happen to good people, that sort of things, especially when it's waves and waves of bad things, and you're questioning God. And as we do, you have deep questions that you feel that nobody's giving you the answers that you want or need. So that's what I was exploring in the book within a fun environment, which I think worked well.
Hey everyone, if you're enjoying the podcast, please don't forget to hit the subscribe, like, or share button. Whether you're on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, or YouTube, your support helps us to reach more people. Stay tuned for more amazing conversations, and thank you for being a part of our community. Yeah. No, and I really love that. I think that, when I think about writing, anyways, I'm more a romantic sort when I think about writing. But I think you saying answering a deep question and then finding the way to now express that deep question is a really important point for a lot of people who have maybe considered writing books. Like, what are you trying to explore? What's the message, right? How do you now then deliver the message? It seems like it's two different things, because you could have gone really heavy, right? You could have just gone a more Christian self-help book kind of
Yeah.
way and then try to understand and even, I guess, find the answer that way, because it doesn't. Let me ask it this way: did you find the answer you were looking for? Will you say that?
It's a deep question. Did I find the answer? I came to a place where I can be at peace with not having the answer, and that too is okay. And that's one of the phrases from the book. Not knowing the answer in itself is an answer, and there's a lot behind that, which if you want to get into, I don't want to get into. But yeah,
Yeah, no,
yeah,
that's fair. And I think that, like you said, faith being from a Christian view, there's all the things the Bible says about not knowing the answers. We know that the Bible tells us we're not going to know the answers. It doesn't exactly stop the questions from happening, though. And like you said, with waves after waves, right? It doesn't stop the
mm,
question. And to a Christian believer who's listening to this, it's like, you're feel free to ask a question and feel free to almost, I wouldn't say give it the answer that you want, but explore it. It sounds to me like that was something that helped
yeah,
in this process.
yeah. I think that it's a valid posture, and it's a valid what's the word, journey to go on. The questions are valid, and to an extent it's not a cop out, and it's not intended to be a cop out to say that we don't know the answers, and that's fine.
Right.
Because faith in itself, and I always say this to you, for some of us things have to make sense, and I'm one of those kind of people. If you put faith in God being the creator of everything that makes sense, then I think it's sensible for you to ask questions along the lines of, God, make this make sense to me. Also along the lines of, if you're a God of love, that how could these things happen?
Yeah.
They are valid questions, and I don't think that it's right to dismiss it. And I'm not saying that you are. I'm saying that because there are a number of people, loads and loads of people that I know, people that I look up to, that deal with traumatic situations. They ask the questions, and either they don't have anyone to give them the answers, or they don't get the answers that they feel that they're entitled to get from God. Because if God, if He exists, then He should be able to speak to His children and give the answers. And as a result, they walk away from faith. So
Yeah.
it's not a flippant thing. I think it's deep in terms of what it does, what that journey does to each person. But I guess what I'm saying is that it is useful to go on that journey from a place of authenticity and also surrendering to whatever the outcome of that journey is. But it's also useful to go it with people who understand faith from a deeper level, who understand loss or trauma from a deeper level, and don't just give you flippant cliche answers, which is what I felt like I wasn't going to put up with.
Yeah, no, and that makes sense. And to your point, we Christians are, we need to do better on that, right? We need to not just, I don't want to say not just give you the Bible response, because what else? It's what if you've studied it well enough, but how do you practicalize it? I saw a story on Instagram shared in a chat yesterday where the guy, as a child, maybe by 6, 7, is still unable to read for whatever reason, and parents are struggling, everybody's struggling, like it's becoming such a big issue. And one day he's playing and this is where I'm going to get into shortly about this whole idea of art. But one day he's playing pretend play with his brother on being a preacher, and he opens the Bible and he ends up reading what he's seen, and he's never been able to read before, like ever been able to make a full sentence before. Sometimes you wonder why the person has to even go through that journey in the first place. Because that's my question from the beginning. Because can you imagine the trauma he's dealt with, the bullying he's dealt
Mhm.
with, how his parents have dealt with him? Because again, think about a Nigerian parent who doesn't have all of the quote unquote
Yeah.
to understand these kind of things. And so you then see this miracle happen and you're just like, I still don't understand. Great, it's a miracle. Why do we have to go through this? So I do, my point just being that it's a valid question. But I think what I wanted to bring out here was the idea of art being able to answer these things a lot more than I would say sometimes
Yeah.
science, right? Or any other field. How do you reckon with
Yeah,
that?
I think that it's always going to, art would always have its place because one, there are layers and layers of who we are as human beings and what our human experience is. There is the scientific part of it, there is the emotional part of it, there is the psychological part of it, there is the feelings and all of that. And art has a way of reaching a deeper place that science wouldn't. And I think that's why art would always thrive and it would always be there. It would evolve in different ways in terms of how it's presented. And creativity, when I was much younger, amongst the writing scene, we used to make jokes and say that God was the first creative because in the Bible it says in the beginning, it says
What
something
was
like,
void?
God said, let there be. I can't remember the
Yeah,
exact phrase. In the beginning, He created, and they're like,
yeah,
God was the first creative. So creativity in itself is something of wonder because you have someone that is creating a world in his head and is putting it, or her head, and putting it out there for the world to enjoy. And it's not just enjoying it, people relate with it. The kind of receptions that I have with the book, sometimes I just like, wow. Someone I sent it, and I was telling you the other day, I sent it to someone and she sent back a voice note and she was deeply emotional about it. And that's the thing about art because you're connecting with people at a deeper level
yeah,
that oftentimes that depth of level, people struggle to express it. And that is, I
yeah,
think, the strength and the beauty of a creative because you're
yeah,
bringing something out which the other person, it's there, they can't
yeah,
express it and they just read it or they
yeah,
listen to it. That's why music, for instance, is such a wonder. Sometimes it can be just the beats and it's just like you feel
yeah,
something. And that's the thing about art and creativity for me. It takes a place
yeah.
that science does the job with helping the world to function and answers, but as human beings and our human experience is deeply more than that.
Yeah, no, I like what you just said about wonder. I never say I've never thought about it like that, but I really like that word. So I got the privilege of seeing the before of the book, and sometimes when you now finally see the full thing, and to your point, when I'm seeing the reactions, like every time I've seen somebody put it up, I'm like, oh, that's my friend. Tell me what you think about it, and the response has been really great. And I think for me, it just shows the power of one finishing what you start, right? Doing it. There are many people I have done this process with where you're helping them read the book. It's not everybody
Yeah.
that then puts it out. That's one. But again, to the extent to which you put out something that is meaningful, that's something that that actually people really connect with. And like you said, grief, trauma, loss, fun way. And the thing is, it's almost that Nigerian thing that we always say where Nigerians make everything
Well,
funny.
yeah.
What's going on? Somebody could be dying right by you. Somebody will find a way to make it funny. Nigerians are ridiculous in that sense. And so being able to take that and take those serious subjects and put it into a fun way, I think it's really amazing. Everybody knows already. I've shared this book, given it out. Please go and read the book. I think you will absolutely love it. But I think before we tell people where else to go and buy it other than Amazon, everybody, talk us through the process though, because like you're saying, you're dealing with those things,
Yeah.
right? Practically for you. So in that process, did you find yourself like struggling? Was it hard? Was it easy? Were you in tears? What was that process like?
It was hard, but I think it's difficult because you're trying to say something and you want it to be meaningful and to be helpful, but you're in a place where it's not meaningful and it's not helpful. So you're trying to, a lot of, when someone wants to write a book, what you're hoping to do, especially from a Christian point of view, is you're trying to communicate truth, you're trying to help people. But the topics that I was dealing with, it pretty much was me writing from a raw place. And yes, it's light and what people don't know in terms of why it comes across light and fun is the book is two layers, right? It started out as a play, which doesn't have all of the trauma and all of it attached to it. It's originally a submission for a play that's been produced in Nigeria and in America. We wanted to do a sequel of it, a part two of it, and it's a totally fun play. So that's what it's for. So we wrote it, but we didn't get to produce it, so it was on the shelf for a very long time. Then I had a couple of situations, life situations. I lost my dad, I lost my mom, and I grappled with the crisis of faith, which people who are very close to me know how deeply it went. So at the point where I felt like I wanted to start writing it and putting my thoughts together, I wanted to do it lightly and also deeply at the same time. So that's how the two came together. So I picked up the book
Yeah.
from the shelf, which I knew was light and easy and fun. And I infused into it a lot of the things that I was dealing with. And I think that's what life is. Life is fun and happy, but at the same time, you can turn the corner and you see something that
Yeah.
totally devastates you. So I think it was the
Yeah.
perfect cocktail of what I wanted to produce or to deliver. And yet, to your question of if it was hard, there were certain, one thing about the way that I write is I'm very crypted in what I say. And it's funny because there's a lot in there which some people will notice, some people wouldn't notice. So some things I write in there and it's true because I experienced it. So for instance, there was a chapter in there where the pastor was talking about he saw a broken man in the parking lot of a hospital who was screaming to the heavens because he just lost someone. And that was actually me. That was my real experience when I was dealing with my dad. So I was writing that, but I was writing it from a third person. So it's not clear that this is me I'm talking about. So there are lots of chapters like that and things that I've written that people who understand grief, who understand loss, will immediately feel the full extent of what I'm talking about. And one that I often get feedback from is the last chapter. When people read the last chapter, it's just wow. So I wrote that last chapter as my sort of closure. It was like a prayer or something. So yes, there were
Yeah.
quite a bit and a lot about it in there that was painful to write, but it was also like a watershed moment for me. Like I wanted to, it's not close the chapter because you never really close the chapter, but I
Yeah.
wanted to bring it all together and say this is my submission about all that I've dealt with, and these are my conclusions about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. And thank you for sharing. I wasn't sure you were going to share, so I'm really glad that you shared that. I know I don't know. At the end of the day, you don't know, right? If you've not been there, like you said, personally, you don't know. And let me just say this. What is the biggest lesson you think grief has taught you through this process?
It's taught me, and it sounds cliche, but it's taught me that life is fragile and so life is to be lived. I said somewhere, I can't remember if it was the book or something that I was writing elsewhere, that people live life twice. They live life before they know grief, and they live life after they know grief. Because after loss, it shakes you, it transforms you. You're a completely different person. And that's why I do things like I wanted to write the book, because you suddenly realize that I don't have all of life to live. And whatever it is that I want to do, I want it to be done. I think it was Miles
Right.
Monroe that used the phrase about living life empty. Like when you're done, be emptied of everything. Um,
Yeah.
I went to see a Lighthouse Family concert last week because I was like, you know what? I love these guys. I listen to their music. I'm going to see Lighthouse Family. So we can't just start, you know what? I want to live life. And it's not just flippantly, I just want to live life. You're living life
Yeah.
more intentionally. You're like, what do you want my life to count for? What do I want?
Yeah.
What's the kind of man that I want to be? What is the legacy I want to leave behind? So you're more intentional about life. And I think that's one major thing that is taught me. And it's also faith. It's helped me understand faith from a deeper place than I did before. And that's something that is not easy to explain. So, in
Mm.
God, yeah, loss, grief is painful, but it does a work that nothing else in this experience can do. And you just have to trust God that it is for a purpose. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I love that. It's funny you said intentional though, because on the flip side, people are like, live life and then go spend all the money, go almost like a prodigal son kind of thing. Like you go want to just lose it all. And that's not what it is, because I think at the end of the day, when we say live life, it's giving of yourself. I think that was one of the things that and we were talking the other day and I'm like, do it because I'm like, everything that you have now, like you said, is to be poured
Yeah.
out. And there's nothing much more beautiful than pouring out, I think, in the form of art. You're so we didn't mention this, but in your day to day, you're what? I don't want to say accountant because that just makes it very distinct. But you work in the financial something.
Let's
I
leave it
don't
as
know
that.
that one. Let, let's leave it as that. So you being able to take that, I don't want to say serious brain because art is serious, but analytical brain, right? And just now put it into art, right? I think there's nothing much more beautiful than that, and leave and doing that intentionally. It's a way to give, it's a way to serve that we sometimes always as Christians only live for the church. And this is what I'm one of a big proponent of. As much as I want to serve in the church, I'm also a big believer in serving in your everyday living. Like everything that you do, everything that you put out is supposed to serve. And I like that you said that when you are writing from a Christian perspective. It's not a Christian book in any way, shape, or form. Nobody can say, oh, Yemi wrote a Christian book. But having that as your background, because that's who you are, that's your life. And I think that's important that people also understand that they're supposed to put out what they have, the faith that they have, in alignment with the things that they
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people talk about
I
that.
think it's about being authentic. There is nothing I love more than being authentic. And the challenge of loving the authentic is that you can be very authentically wrong and vile, and you can be very authentically pure in who you are. But whatever the case, it is truth, which is a starting point. Of course, truth is not relative. There is one truth,
Thank
which,
you.
depending on how, yeah, people can take it on a spectrum, but I believe truth is truth. It's if you want to put something out there, let it be real. And that's the best way that you can be true to you. And that's the best way that it will connect with people. So, yes, like you said, in your day to day life, how can you bring it all together? I like the song, and for me, it's always been a thing. You too, I think it's you too. Bono, all the colors bleed to one. I believe in the number. All the colors bleed to one. That's always been something for me. How do you get to a place where all of the facets of who you are come into alignment, bleed together, and you can be true to who you are and how you present yourself. And I think that is the journey that faith takes us on. But it's complicated. It's not easy, and there's a lot of nuances behind that, which I can go on and on. But yes,
No, but please go on and on. Because I was going to ask, what will you tell a new writer, like someone who's just starting from the beginning? They've not blogged, they've not any of that, but they know, they feel like that's their life purpose. They want to end up being writers. What will you tell them? And I know you're going to say, won't be authentic. So now then, layer the nuances for them so they can appreciate that.
It sounds like ABCs, but if you're a new writer, write, just write. Write till you get to a place where you know what you want to talk about before you start putting it out there in the form of a published work. Started out like I was blogging, I was writing things that I was putting it together like a little book, but I wasn't putting it out there. And is that it helps you to form your voice. It helps you to, because remember that when you put something out there, it's there forever and you can hardly take it back. I think I heard Chiamanda, and I struggle to pronounce her name, say something along the lines of when she looks back at some of her old books, it's not her, it's she feels very distant to it. And that's because when you put something out there, it's there, but
Yeah.
people are complex. Your views change 2 years down, your views change 10 line. So
Yeah.
yes, aside from the point of practicing your art, to get it to a place where it's solid and it's true. There's also the place about ensuring that what you say is something that you'll be proud to look back on 10 years down the line. But
Yeah.
I mean, what's to say? Who's to know what your views will be 10 years down the line? But I'll definitely say for a new writer, practice, own your craft, understand your audience. The more you do that, then you get to a place where you have something that's refined that you feel is worthy to put out there. But I don't believe in being a gatekeeper for anyone for what you want to do, what you want to put out there. But do it and learn from it is what I would say. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, almost go back to blogging if you need to. The original form of blogging, right? Like that general idea. Because I do think that one thing that was really good with our stuff back then was we got the critique sometimes, right? I remember then I was writing this love story or whatever, and there would be, oh, you could do this better, you could do this better, you could add that better, and all of that. And so, to your point, you have to put it out there still, and you have to be okay with the critique and all of that, because then you can come out with the best-selling book. Because a question, as much as I am a big proponent of doing, I also obviously think about what if this thing fails. So how what were your thought processes through that? What if this thing fails? Now it's a bestseller, so it doesn't really matter. Whatever those fears
Yeah.
were gone. Or how did you feel at the time?
I think I was rational or reasonable about it. There is the probability of it failing. And I think you have to come to a place where you're okay with that. We all have self doubt. Don't let it cripple you. As they always say, do it scared. And if it fails, we learn from our failure and we move on. But I think definitely it's useful to analyze, maybe because I come from an analytic point of view, analyze the probability of it being a success and it being a failure, and take an informed decision on how you want to go ahead. Yeah, yeah. Don't just jump into it stupidly.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. Like the Bible says, it's like that you want to build a house and you don't have all the materials, right? So one of the things that I would say to a new writer is what I've just said: share it, right? Let people read it. Don't just think, "Oh, I've written such a book that moves me." Okay, because let me ask it this way: the fact that the book moves you personally, will you say that's a good indicator that the book will move others?
no,
If that
no, at all.
okay. All right. No, but speak on that, because I do think that, again, reading the book, when I read it like as a draft, it's, oh my gosh, this is so moving. I can see how this is going to move people. And I do feel like you must have had that experience, right? Or that thought as you're writing it, that
Yeah,
this is going to move others. So would that have been a great indicator if you, as the only, what's it called, as the only critic
yeah.
of this, it was enough to send out? What would you say?
Yeah, you like we said, I went through the school of blogging.
Fair enough. Fair
I
enough.
had years and years of feedback on my writing. I had feedback on when it wasn't good enough. I had feedback on when it was improving. I had feedback
Yeah.
of what people liked about my writing. And one of the key
Yeah.
things that people often said was they like how I put words together and they
Mm.
like my train of thought of it being unusual. So I knew my selling point through years. And
Mhm.
so it trains you on what is likely to get some good level of receptivity. And the other
Right.
thing I did was when I had the draft, I had people that I trusted to have a read and give
Yeah.
me honest feedback before I to putting it out there. Yeah.
Yeah.
But definitely, I wouldn't trust my own intuition for anything.
So it's funny that he says honest feedback. He also thinks I'm very much a everything is great, even though that's not the that's never really the case. I don't know why people don't believe me, but I think to your point again, and I will bring a Bible verse. Right, the Bible says something about counsel in the person does well with
Yeah,
many counsels.
multiple.
Sorry guys,
Yeah.
I am still like jet lagged. I promise you, I know my
In the
Bible.
multitude of counsel, there is wisdom, something like that. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Exactly. So again, new writers, I think this is something to really think about, right? Don't just it's not the person who always say yes or it's great. You need someone else who will tell you that it's bad as well and all of that. And I think that's really important. And it's good. I personally am very I'm positive. But I think saying fact is also different
Yeah.
from giving a general like I can say that sentence does not
Yeah.
work. But with emotional intelligence, we're able to layer it nicely. So that's important. Okay, so now you've published because you've written many things. Now you've published your first book. Do you see yourself ever becoming a full time author? Like that's all you do?
I think I will get there eventually because, right, when you publish a book that does well, relatively, it's like a drug, isn't it?
Yeah.
It does get you onto the next one. And I'm
Yeah.
working on the next one. But I do already see myself as continuing to write till I get to a place where I retire and I have a full time space to properly write because there is a lot to be said, especially if you're
Mm.
the kind of person that has a lot in your head, you might as well pour it out. But yes, I hope. But realistically, being a full time author doesn't pay the bills. So,
That's not necessarily true.
yeah, it's the 0.01% of people that happens to. I'm more realistic.
Fair enough, fair enough. But again, not necessarily true. That's my distinct. But I like that you're at least thinking about it because sometimes, again, we're like, I've done it and I finally at least done the one, and then I don't feel that need to do it again. And I do think that, again, with the kind of quality of work that you've done, then you should definitely continue. Okay. I wanted to ask something before. I don't want to use the word regret, but when you look back, to your point, what finally propelled this was maybe the loss and the grief, right? Is there a point where you think I should have published other things first beyond this? Because now you've written this from a like you said, a personal story as well. And it's giving you it almost is like it gave you the content by
Yeah.
itself, right? Like now every other book after that
Mhm.
you have to think about it. Like you have to now, how do you now make that book fresh? How do you make that book new?
Mhm.
Like something that nobody has ever written before? Because there is something to be said that of the fact that this one came from a very personal perspective. Does that make
Yeah.
sense? Is my question
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah, it does. And I'll dissect that carefully because would I go back to a time where my parents were around and I didn't have a book that did well?
Mm.
100%. I would take that over a book that did well, in quotes, because
Yeah.
there are people that like the book and people that don't, but that's to each his own. I think God has a sense of humor. Life has a sense of humor in terms of
Mm.
some things happen and for most people, most things that are significant, it takes something significant to cause something significant to happen. And yes, it so happened that loss and grief caused me or forced me to wake up. Does it mean that other books will have such? I hope not. I think that there is a waking up which something does to you. And once you're awake, and the other things that I'm writing, it there is a realization that there is a lot to be said, and there are
Yeah.
creative ideas to put forward, and there is beauty to contribute to the world. And
Yeah.
you see the reception of the joy, the experience that people have by consuming. And to an extent, it is a drug, it is addictive, but to another extent, it is life. It is
Yeah.
giving people that 3 hours of time where they experience something that no one can take back. I think back of the books that I've read both growing up and now, it does something to you. Some books change you for life.
Yeah.
Some books help you to make decisions. If and it's not just books, it's music, it's a lot of creative processes do that. So if you can contribute to that in somebody's life experience, then I think you've lived life well lived, if that's the word that you want to put it.
Yeah.
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 I love it. Okay, what's your favorite book that you've read so far, or let's just say recently?
Ew, that's a tough question. I love the Godfather series, but that's not recent. But I love Mario Puzo. He's really good. There is this book that I read recently. I can't remember the name in my head, but also more closer to home, Lola Shoney's Messages
Um,
Wives. I love that book. It's
yeah.
funny, and
Okay.
it's layered. It's a good book. That's one
Okay.
that I've read more recently, and I would recommend to anyone. It's a good book. Yeah,
Fair. I've seen it, and I may even have it, but I still haven't gotten a chance to
it's a
read it. So
classic.
I'll look into that. Let me ask, what makes a good book? As people know, if you may not know, but anybody who spent enough time with me knows. Like I said, I like more of the light books, and when I say light, I just mean drama, like anything much more drama, romance, those kind of things. I'm struggling to read a lot of what people consider good books, right? And when I say good books, maybe things more akin to biography, self help, something related to psychology, doing well, work, those kind of
Yeah.
things. I really struggle with it. It's one of my goals for this year, one, at least one each month. But, and so the argument is that you can read a lot of books, but are you reading good books? And I wanted to know from your perspective, what is a good book, regardless of whether it's more fiction or non-fiction? Huh? That's the word. Oh God.
It's definitely relative to each person. So I would say if it does it for you, then it's a good book. In the bigger picture, in the commercial sense of things, a good book is a book that sells. And yeah, I guess that works because it means that it's impacted a large number of people. So that means it's a
Mm,
bestseller. It's sold well. And
mm,
to an extent, yes, that is a good book. But to another extent, there are books that have only sold 50 copies and it's
yeah.
had such an influence and it's helped someone else do something that's impacted in the world and that sort of thing. But yeah, it's always relative. I've read Martin Luther King's biography is one of my favorite. A lot of people read biographies, and I've read self-help books. I would definitely say it's relative. It depends on you
Mm.
as a person. Yeah.
Okay. So let me ask you another way. Not about the genre itself, but about the what makes it a good book. Like other than yes, I know bestseller, all of that. The impact is important, but I'm saying if you were to think of the book that has, like you just mentioned, MLK's biography, he didn't write
Yeah.
that, right? I'm
Yeah.
assuming that it was somebody
Yeah.
else that wrote it. But what stood out in that book for you? Was it the person? Was it the subject? Was it the I don't want to say design,
The plot.
the
Yeah. Yeah.
storytelling? Yeah. So what stood out for you?
Well, if you put it in that sense, for me, it's a combination of the storytelling as well as how the words are put together because a book is a combination of words on a
Yeah.
paper. The story could be good and the way the words are delivered are no good and it wouldn't do well. So foundation is, do you have a good story to tell and do you have a way with words? There's a twitch, those who know will know. Do you have a way with words? Yeah, and is the book able to, can people, do they see a bit of themselves in the book? Do they find hope in the book? Do they find laughter in the book? Does it help them to think about life in a new sense or even escape? Some people escape. So I think for me, it boils down to the storyline as well as how well the book is written. But I would in no sense say that I am, what's the word? I'm not the judge of such things. Give it to one small book. I so much trust in my own sense of judgment. So that's my
Yeah,
own my own view. Other
that's fair.
people, yeah, established or experience will have different views.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, all right, we're rounding up now. Would you rather read or listen to a book?
I would say read, definitely. I only listen because I don't have time. It's easier on the train or on the commute or when you're working at home doing stuff. Reading, you can get through a book quickly. But I like the old-fashioned way. Open the book and read it, and you can see the words. Yeah, and you can hold it in your hands.
All right. Would you rather a world without music or a world without books?
Neither.
I knew that was going to be a tough one
Yeah,
for you. Okay.
neither.
Let me see. Would you rather a world without movies or a world without books?
Movies, maybe.
I could guess your
Yeah,
answer on that one
yeah.
as well. Yeah, no, a life without music or books will be really
That'd
tough.
be
I think I
dull.
could do without movies. I think I could do without movies. All right. This has been very fantastic. Thank you. Thank you so much. You get to ask me one question. And don't tell me, because I know I didn't remind you about this, but I know you've listened to my podcast. So you know that there's one question because everybody always acts like they don't know that there's one question. So, what is your one question?
Oh, wow. I'll make it easy for you. What is the worst place that you've traveled to? Because you know you're always all over the place. It's easier to say the best place that you've been to, but let's flip it on its head. What's the worst country that you've traveled to?
Wow, that's I don't think I've been to a worse country yet. I won't lie. I've been, as far as country goes, I've only been to very limited Canada, Dubai, London, the UK, I should say, Ghana, Mauritius,
So if you could
Uganda.
rank all of those, or let's say
Cayman.
city, which one has been your least favorite?
Oh, okay. The city is easier. I will say definitely some cities in America. Alabama has not been fun. There's just nothing in Alabama. No, no offense. There's just really nothing in Alabama. New Orleans was all right, but I wouldn't live there. Yeah, places like Kentucky, Tennessee, they've been all right. I just wouldn't live there. So you know how like when you go, you're really just going
Yeah,
to see some of the iconic places anyway. So it's but you know that you're never living there. Oh, South Carolina was also some place I was just like, what is happening? Like, is this a country? I mean, a city in America? Because it's so funny, right? Obviously, people don't realize that there are places that as well like Ajegule in America.
yeah,
They're about the
yeah.
same. That kind of thing. So yeah, I'll definitely say that. Seen some very beautiful places, but yeah, there are still some very less developed places, even in America and across the world.
Okay,
So
nice.
yeah, thank you for making it easy for me. I appreciate that. All right, so where can we find the book? Obviously, he's talked a lot about it being in Nigeria, but you can find it in Amazon. You can find it in any country, pretty much.
Yep,
So
yep.
like,
It's on most Amazon platforms in terms of countries, so you can buy it on Amazon.
yeah.
It's in Nigeria. Most bookstores have it in Nigeria. Roving Heights is my primary distributor in Nigeria,
Mhm.
and a number of the other bookstores. The line I can't remember what it's called. There's one in Abuja and all of that. There's some stores in Ghana recently who are also stocking it really well. I've had inquiries from Kenya to stock in Kenya. So very soon it will be available in Kenya. So it's a little book that's going all over the place.
I like how you keep saying it's a little book. Little books are the best books, clearly. So please, and you know what? If you listen to this podcast, and I'm trying to see how I can do it as a giveaway, but the first person to answer the question, so you have to have listened all the way to the end. The first person to answer the question, what question? What should we ask them?
Where can you find me? My social media handle.
Where can you find Akbayemi or Yemi Odunfa and his social media handle? The first person to do that, I will send you a book. Just answer and I'll connect with you and I will send you the book. So thank you guys very much for joining us as usual. Thank you so much, Akbay. I really appreciate
Thank
it.
you for having me. The podcast is doing well. So well done. Well done. I'm always
Thank
happy
you.
to listen to the episodes. But yeah, thank you for having me. Yeah.
Thank you for joining me in today's episode. Just like you would share with friends about a great book you read, don't forget to share this if you enjoyed it. Connect with us on IG and Twitter at TWWPcast and get details on the website at worldwithoutpeople.org. And hey, remember to make loving others the story of your life. Until next time, this is the world without people.